Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that can change your life forever if you really grab hold of it. Consistency is the great separator. It's not talent, it's not luck, it's not even timing that creates greatness. It's consistency. Consistency is the great separator between those who dream and those who achieve. Many people have great ideas, big visions, and lofty goals, but only a small percentage of them ever reach the destination they set for themselves. Why? Because they confuse occasional effort with long-term results. Consistency is what builds bridges from desire to destiny. It's not the one-time big action that makes someone successful. It's the daily, repetitive, sometimes boring, often unseen actions that separate the achievers from the dreamers. When you look at someone who has built a great business, mastered a skill, transformed their body, or developed a deep spiritual life, what you're really looking at is years of consistent behavior. They didn't get there because of a single moment of brilliance. They got there because they refused to quit when others did. The reason consistency is so powerful is because it compounds over time. Just like money invested wisely grows with compound interest, habits practiced daily build momentum and multiply results. Reading 10 pages of a book today doesn't make you smarter tomorrow, but doing it every day for a year makes you a different person. Saving $10 today won't make you wealthy, but saving consistently over time creates financial stability and eventually financial freedom. Doing push-ups today doesn't make you strong tomorrow, but daily exercise turns weakness into strength. The same principle works in every area of life. Consistency multiplies effort and eventually creates breakthroughs that sporadic effort can never achieve. The challenge is that consistency rarely feels rewarding in the moment. Doing the right thing over and over again without instant results feels tedious. That's why most people quit too early. They expect overnight success, and when they don't see it, they get discouraged. But consistency is about trusting the process, not chasing the immediate reward. It's about knowing that every small action is a seed, and seeds take time to grow. If you plant a seed today and dig it up tomorrow to see if it's growing, you kill it. But if you plant, water, and nurture it consistently, one day you see fruit. Consistency requires faith in the unseen. It requires the discipline to believe that small actions done faithfully will eventually lead to big outcomes. Another reason consistency is the great separator is because it's rare. Most people are inconsistent. They start projects and never finish. They make commitments they don't keep. They get excited one day and burned out the next. They let their emotions dictate their discipline. That's why consistent people stand out. In a world full of quitters, the one who simply refuses to stop moving forward eventually wins. You don't even have to be the smartest or the most talented. You just have to keep showing up when others don't. Persistence beats brilliance when brilliance doesn't have endurance. Consistency also builds credibility. When people see you show up day after day, when they watch you honor your word, when they know you're reliable, opportunities begin to open for you. People trust consistency more than talent. Someone might be incredibly gifted, but if they're inconsistent, no one can depend on them. On the other hand, even someone with average ability becomes invaluable if they can be counted on to deliver consistently. Consistency builds a reputation that talent alone can never secure, and here's something powerful. Consistency transforms who you are. Every action you repeat ingrains itself into your character. If you consistently cut corners, you become a careless person. If you consistently honor your commitments, you become a dependable person. If you consistently invest in your growth, you become a wise person. Over time, consistency doesn't just create results. It creates identity. It shapes how you see yourself and how the world sees you. And that is why it is the great separator. Because at the end of the day, your life is not defined by what you occasionally do. It is defined by what you consistently do. So if you want to separate yourself from the pack, if you want to rise above average, if you want to experience transformation in any area of your life, Stop looking for shortcuts and start practicing consistency. Decide that you will do the small, right things over and over again. Decide that you will keep going when it feels slow, when it feels hard, when nobody notices. Because the truth is, most people won't. And that's exactly why consistency is the great separator, because the few who force themselves to do it are the few who create extraordinary lives. Consistency doesn't come naturally, and that is something many people don't want to admit. We live in a world where most of our actions are driven by feelings. People wake up and ask themselves, do I feel like working out today? Do I feel like reading? Do I feel like showing up for my goals? The problem with feelings is that they change constantly, and if your discipline depends on how you feel, then you will never sustain anything long enough to see results. No one wakes up every morning excited to repeat the same tasks. No one naturally desires to push through discomfort over and over again. That's why consistency must be forced. If you wait for the right mood, the right timing, or the right energy, you'll never be consistent because those things will always fluctuate. Think about a farmer planting crops. There are days when the sun is hot, the soil is hard, and the work is exhausting. Do you think the farmer feels like doing it every day? No, but he forces himself because he knows the harvest is coming. If he only planted when he felt like it, he would never reap a harvest. The same is true in every area of life. Success requires forcing yourself to act beyond your feelings. You might not feel like studying, but if you force yourself, you gain knowledge. You might not feel like working, but if you force yourself, you build income and stability. You might not feel like forgiving, but if you force yourself, you build healthier relationships. Growth always requires pushing against the resistance of your natural tendencies. One of the reasons consistency doesn't come naturally is because the human mind is wired for comfort. Our brains want to conserve energy, avoid pain, and seek pleasure. That means your natural instinct will always resist discipline. Waking up early, exercising, praying, reading, saving money. All of those require energy and often discomfort. Your brain will give you every excuse not to do them. It will say you can do it tomorrow, or just skip today, it won't matter, or you're too tired, you deserve a break. If you listen to those voices, inconsistency becomes your default. That's why forcing yourself is not optional. It's essential. You must override your natural programming if you want supernatural results. Another reason consistency doesn't come naturally is because most people are addicted to novelty. We love new ideas, new goals, new opportunities, and new beginnings. Starting something feels exciting. But the moment it becomes routine, the excitement fades. That's why gyms are full in January and empty in March. That's why people start businesses with enthusiasm but quit when the daily grind sets in. The human mind craves variety, but success demands repetition. You can't master a skill without practicing it over and over. You can't build wealth without repeating smart financial decisions again and again. You can't deepen your faith without showing up daily in prayer and scripture. The excitement of starting must be replaced by the discipline of continuing, and that is something you have to force yourself to accept. Forcing yourself to be consistent also means embracing accountability. Left to ourselves, most of us will take the easy path. That's why successful people create systems, routines, and accountability structures that keep them on track even when they don't feel like it. It might be hiring a coach, joining a group, setting reminders, or creating penalties for quitting. Whatever the method, the goal is the same: to create an external push that supports your internal discipline. If you wait for natural motivation, you will fail, but if you create systems that force you to show up, you will win. And let's not ignore the spiritual side of this. Discipline is a fruit of the Spirit, but it doesn't just fall into your lap. You have to partner with God by making choices that align with discipline. You may not feel like praying, but when you force yourself to do it, you open the door for God's presence to meet you. You may not feel like giving, but when you force yourself, you position yourself for blessing. You may not feel like walking in integrity, but when you force yourself, you establish a foundation that God can build on. Consistency is not natural because it's not flesh-driven, it's spirit-driven. That means it often feels like resistance because your flesh wants comfort while your spirit longs for growth. At the end of the day, the people who succeed are not the ones who wait for natural consistency to appear. They are the ones who create it by force. They understand that their feelings are not the boss of their future. They know that their instincts can't be trusted when it comes to growth, so they make the decision to act regardless of how they feel. And over time, what once had to be forced eventually becomes habit. What once required discipline eventually becomes natural, but you can't get there if you don't start by forcing yourself. That's why consistency doesn't come naturally. You have to push past the resistance of comfort, distraction, and emotion if you ever want to reach the rewards that only consistency can bring. Motivation isn't enough, and if you build your life on the shaky foundation of inspiration alone, you will always fall short of your potential. Motivation is like a spark. It can light you up in the moment, it can get you excited, it can give you goosebumps when you hear a powerful speech or watch an inspiring video. But sparks don't last. They flash bright for a moment and then fade away unless there is something solid, something consistent to keep the fire burning. People who rely on motivation alone are always chasing the next high, the next message, the next event to get them moving. But the truth is, motivation can start the engine, but discipline is what keeps the vehicle moving forward. The problem with motivation is that it is emotional, and emotions are unreliable. Some days you wake up feeling strong and inspired, ready to tackle your goals. Other days you wake up tired, stressed, or discouraged, and those same goals don't feel exciting anymore. If your actions are tied only to your moods, you will live an inconsistent life. That's why so many people start things they never finish. They feel motivated in the beginning, but when that feeling fades, so does their commitment. Discipline, on the other hand, says, I will do it whether I feel like it or not. Discipline is stable. It doesn't rise and fall with emotion. It is anchored in decisions, not feelings. Think about athletes at the highest level. Do you think they are motivated every single morning to train at 5 a.m., to practice the same drills over and over, to push through the pain of conditioning? No. Motivation might have gotten them started, but discipline is what kept them going. The same is true for entrepreneurs who build great companies. The idea of wealth and freedom may have motivated them at first, but the reality of discipline, showing up every day, making tough decisions, sacrificing comfort, was what carried them to success. Even in spiritual growth, motivation will not sustain you. You might feel motivated during a powerful church service, but when you wake up on Monday morning, it's discipline that gets you on your knees in prayer and discipline that opens your Bible when no one else is watching. Motivation also has a dangerous side because it gives people the illusion of progress without real progress. You can listen to motivational speeches for hours, feel good in the moment, even shout amen or yes, as if something has shifted. But if you don't take consistent action afterward, nothing actually changes. That's why so many people spend years consuming motivation but never transforming their lives. They mistake inspiration for transformation, when in reality, inspiration is only the beginning. Transformation happens through action, and action requires discipline. Motivation without discipline is like having a map but never taking the journey. You know where you want to go, but you're not moving in that direction. There's also the issue of comfort. Motivation often thrives in environments that are convenient and inspiring, but discipline thrives in the uncomfortable. When it's raining outside, motivation will tell you to skip the workout, but discipline will say, go anyway. When you're tired at the end of the day, motivation will say, relax and watch TV. But discipline will say, work on your business plan. When you feel hurt in a relationship, motivation will say, withdraw, or give up. But discipline will say, have the hard conversation and keep building. The motivation quits when it gets hard, but discipline leans in when it gets hard. And that's why discipline produces growth, while motivation only produces moments. If you look at the people who have achieved greatness in any field, you will notice something. They are not always the most motivated people, but they are always the most disciplined people. They force themselves to do the small, necessary actions day after day, even when their feelings don't line up. And over time, that discipline produces fruit that motivation could never produce. The truth is, discipline eventually creates its own kind of motivation. When you start seeing progress, when you feel yourself growing stronger, when you notice results stacking up, you begin to feel a deeper, more lasting motivation that comes not from a speech or an external event, but from the satisfaction of knowing you are becoming the person you said you wanted to be. So the next time you feel motivated, enjoy it, but don't rely on it. Use it as fuel to set your goals, to ignite your vision, to get clear on your purpose. But then make a decision that you will be disciplined, that you will act whether or not you feel motivated. Motivation is a gift, but discipline is a choice. Motivation comes and goes, but discipline endures. If you build your life on discipline, you will outlast the ups and downs of emotion, and you will achieve things that people who rely on motivation alone will never experience. That's why motivation is not enough. You must anchor your life in discipline if you ever want to see true, lasting change. Consistency is not perfection, and this is where so many people get trapped. They believe that in order to be consistent, they must never make a mistake, never miss a day, never fall short. That kind of thinking sets people up for failure because the moment they slip, they feel disqualified. But true consistency is not about never falling. It's about how quickly you get back up when you do. Perfection is impossible, but resilience is attainable. Winners are not those who never stumble. They are those who refuse to let stumbling become stopping. When you understand that consistency is about progress, not perfection, you free yourself to keep going despite setbacks. Every journey worth taking will have obstacles. You will face days when your schedule falls apart, when your energy is gone, when you miss the mark. That's life. If you treat those moments as proof that you failed, you'll never finish what you started. But if you treat those moments as part of the process, you can continue moving forward. The difference between the person who reaches their goal and the one who gives up is not that one is flawless, it's that one refuses to let failure define them. Consistency means returning to the path again and again, no matter how many times you've been knocked off it. Think about a child learning to walk. They don't take their first step and never fall again. They take a step, stumble, fall, and then get up to try again. If they expected perfection, they would never learn to walk. But because they are relentless about getting back up, eventually they master it. Adults forget this lesson. We think falling means we're not capable, when in fact, falling is part of the learning process. People who succeed in business, in relationships, in health, and in faith are not the ones who never fall. They are the ones who treat failure as feedback, not as final. Consistency without perfection also requires humility. You must be willing to admit when you've messed up, to correct course, and to start again. Pride keeps people stuck because it convinces them that making a mistake is the end of the story. Humility says, I fell, but I'm not finished. I slipped, but I can get back on track. That humility keeps you moving forward. In fact, the faster you get back up, the less power failure has over you. If you miss a workout, do the next one. If you spend money unwisely, get back to saving. If you skip prayer one day, return to God the next. Don't let one missed day turn into a missed week, and don't let one mistake turn into a lifestyle. There is also a dangerous myth that says if you can't do something perfectly, it's not worth doing. That mindset destroys people's progress. You don't have to eat perfectly to get healthy. You just need to eat better most of the time. You don't have to run 10 miles a day to get fit. You just need to exercise consistently. You don't have to pray for hours to build your relationship with God. You just need to show up daily and talk to Him sincerely. Perfection is intimidating, but consistency is doable. The key is not to aim for flawless execution, but to commit to faithful effort. Over time, that effort compounds into excellence. When you release perfection and embrace consistency, you also learn how to give yourself grace. Grace is not an excuse to stay the same. It's the empowerment to start again. Too many people quit because they beat themselves up after a mistake. They think, I blew it, so what's the point? But grace says, yes, you blew it, but you can try again, and this time you'll be stronger. That grace is what allows you to keep building momentum even when the journey is messy. Without grace, you'll give up at the first sign of imperfection. With grace, you'll keep showing up, and eventually you'll see progress. Another powerful truth is that consistency, even with flaws, beats perfection that never starts. Some people are waiting for the perfect plan, the perfect timing, or the perfect energy to take action. As a result, they do nothing. Others start imperfectly, make mistakes, adjust, and keep going. At the end of the year, the imperfect doer has grown while the perfectionist is still waiting. Progress always beats perfection because progress creates momentum. Consistency is about the long game. You may not see dramatic results immediately, but every small step forward adds up. The one who keeps walking, even with stumbles, eventually outruns the one who demands perfection. Life is not a sprint. It's a marathon, and marathons are finished by those who endure, not by those who sprint perfectly and then quit. So if you want to win, take the pressure of perfection off your shoulders. Focus instead on showing up, doing your best, and returning quickly when you fall short. That is what true consistency looks like. Greatness is never about being flawless. It is about being faithful. And the good news is that anyone can be faithful. Anyone can get back up one more time. Anyone can keep moving forward even imperfectly. If you embrace that truth, you will go further than most, because most people disqualify themselves at the first mistake. Remember, consistency is not perfection. It is resilience, grace, humility, and persistence stacked over time. And if you master that, you will accomplish far more than the person who is still waiting to be perfect before they begin. Vision fuels discipline, and without vision, consistency becomes impossible. People who lack vision get tired quickly because they don't see the bigger picture behind their actions. They don't have a compelling why that pushes them past the resistance of comfort and excuses. Discipline without vision feels like punishment, but discipline with vision feels like investment. When you know where you are going and why you must get there, you will find the strength to do what needs to be done even when you don't feel like it. Vision gives meaning to repetition, and meaning gives energy to consistency. Without vision, discipline dries up. With vision, discipline thrives. Think about a student in school. If they see studying as just another boring task, they will procrastinate, complain, and give half-hearted effort. But if that same student has a vision of becoming a doctor, an engineer, or a leader who makes an impact, suddenly studying takes on a different weight. The vision transforms the task from a burden into a stepping stone. The same applies to every area of life. Saving money feels restrictive if you have no vision, but when your vision is financial freedom, building wealth for your family, or funding a cause bigger than yourself, saving becomes a joy. Waking up early to exercise feels miserable if there's no vision, but if you see yourself as healthy, strong, and living long to enjoy your children and grandchildren, then exercise feels like a gift. Vision doesn't remove the effort. It transforms how you see the effort. This is why most people quit. They lack vision. They start with motivation but no clear destination. When challenges come, they don't know why they should keep going. Vision is what anchors you in storms. Vision is what whispers, keep going, when your body says stop. Vision is what says stay consistent, when your emotions say quit. Discipline is hard, but vision makes it worthwhile. That's why people who are crystal clear about their vision can endure hardships that would break others. Their focus isn't on the temporary pain, it's on the promised future. Vision also determines the quality of your discipline. Small vision creates weak discipline, but big vision creates powerful discipline. If your vision is to survive, your discipline will be just enough to get by. But if your vision is to thrive, to prosper, to impact generations, then your discipline will stretch to match that vision. This is why it is so important to dream big. A small vision will not demand your best, but a great vision will pull greatness out of you. People don't rise to the level of their discipline, they rise to the level of their vision, and their discipline adjusts accordingly. Take a look at successful entrepreneurs, leaders, or spiritual giants. They are not consistent because they love discipline more than the rest of us. They are consistent because their vision is so strong it pulls them forward. A person with a vision of building a global company can endure sleepless nights, rejections, and failures because they see the bigger picture. A person with a vision of changing lives through ministry can endure the sacrifices, criticisms, and loneliness because they see the eternal impact. Vision makes sacrifice worth it. Vision gives pain a purpose. Vision also brings clarity. When you know where you're going, you know what to say yes to and what to say no to. Discipline is not just about doing the right things, it's about refusing to do the wrong things. Without vision, you get distracted by every opportunity, every temptation, every shiny object. But when vision is strong, you don't waste energy on things that don't align. You become focused, sharp, and strategic. This clarity makes discipline easier because you're not confused about your priorities. Even spiritually, vision plays a vital role. Proverbs says, "Where there is no vision, the people perish." In other words, without vision, people lose direction, lose passion, and lose discipline. But with vision, people find strength to endure. Vision of God's promises, vision of eternal reward, vision of becoming who He called you to be. These are the things that fuel spiritual consistency. It's not about rules or rituals. It's about seeing the future God has prepared and walking in daily discipline to get there. The truth is, vision and discipline are inseparable. Discipline without vision feels empty, and vision without discipline remains a fantasy. But when vision fuels discipline, miracles happen. That's when ordinary people accomplish extraordinary things. That's when habits become lifestyles and lifestyles become legacies. That's when you stop just surviving and start thriving. So if you want to strengthen your discipline, don't just try harder, see clearer, get a bigger vision. Write it down, picture it, meditate on it, pray over it until it becomes so real in your mind that quitting feels impossible. When the vision is strong enough, the discipline will follow. When you know your why, the how becomes easier. And once vision fuels your discipline, you will discover that consistency is not as hard as you once thought. It becomes natural because your heart is already fixed on the outcome you're chasing. Consistency applies to every area of life, not just one. Many people make the mistake of compartmentalizing discipline. They tell themselves, "I'll be consistent at work, but my health can wait," or "I'll stay disciplined with my finances, but my relationships will take care of themselves." The truth is, life doesn't work in compartments. The way you do one thing is often the way you do everything. If you're sloppy in one area, it bleeds into others. If you're disciplined in one area, that strength can flow into the rest of your life. True success comes when consistency becomes a lifestyle, not a one-time project. Think about your health. You can be brilliant, wealthy, and influential, but if you neglect your body, you limit how far you can go. Consistency in eating right, exercising, and resting gives you the energy and stamina to pursue your dreams. On the other hand, ignoring your health may not hurt immediately, but over time, inconsistency shows up as sickness, fatigue, and loss of strength. In the same way, relationships require consistency. Love is not proven by grand gestures once a year. It's proven by small acts of care every day. Consistently listening, serving, encouraging, and showing up is what builds strong families and lasting friendships. Neglecting relationships for too long creates distance that can't be fixed with one big apology. Consistency is the glue that holds bonds together. Finances also reveal the power of consistency. People dream of financial freedom, but freedom doesn't come from sudden windfalls or one-time breakthroughs. It comes from the daily discipline of saving, investing, managing, and giving wisely. Small amounts handled consistently grow into great wealth, but inconsistency leaves people broke despite big opportunities. The principle of compounding only rewards the consistent. A person who invests a little every month will outperform someone who invests a large sum once and never again. Consistency multiplies effort. Spiritual growth is no different. Many people wait for life-changing moments, but true transformation